So I'm recording this right after my stream. So I'm sorry if my throat is really scratchy and shit like that. I was just streaming. I was just talking a lot. I should really drink some water, but I'm really like hype about talking about these three books that we're going to talk about in this video. So let's get started. So like again, I read on the Kindle app, so I'm not going to have like the thumbnail of the video is not going to be like me holding a book. Like imagine like the book's in my hand. All right, this is what we're reading. So we are reading. Well, we have read, um, Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy, The Road by Cormac McCarthy, and Tender is the Flesh by, I think it was a woman wrote this. Bro, I cannot remember who wrote this. Hold on, give me a sec. Christina Delcher? Anyway, let's get into it. So, Cormac McCarthy, Blood Meridian was it was a very interesting read because it was definitely like outside my comfort zone, sort of, in terms of like, I love the story, I love the shit like that. So Cormac McCarthy has an interesting way of writing. People like praise him, like, oh, he's such a crazily, like, he's an insane writer, basically. But at the same time, I kind of find his writing is a bit monotonous because he kind of just yaps about descriptions. I don't know if that's like very like insulting to say. Okay, not like no like shade throwing his way, but like he is a very good writer. But at the same time, I kind of just want to get the story over and done with. You know what I mean? Like I kind of just want to like I don't want to read a description of like some mountains for like 2 whole pages. Like I'm pretty sure he does that like several times. He'll just be describing like like a sunset or something. Oh, it's so beautiful and shit like that. Yeah, I get it. But at the same time, bro, just like say like we're looking at a sun and say, okay. The thing is, like you have to. I'm not like an average reader. I'm very boring. I like reading shorter stories, and this Cormac McCarthy wasn't like a crazily like giant book, but again, to me it felt long. And isn't like another critique I will say is that he didn't like use any like there's no grammar, no punctuation, no nothing. It's just slabs of writing broken up sometimes when something like a different scene happens or when the characters are speaking, basically. And so this is like not a book for the week, basically. I mean, it's not like the House of oh, I can't remember the one book. Like the book of like all like the different like paragraphs and like some words like upside down and shit like that. It wasn't that crazy, but at the same time, it was a house little read. Like I don't. It's kind of like spicy food in terms of like yeah, I like spicy food, but I don't like having to fight, to obtain it. You know what I mean? And I feel like I really had to like I had to like reread paragraphs and shit like that again because I had to like figure out who was actually speaking at the time. And he's actually very much he's a lot better in like the word. Obviously there's punctuation, grammar, and like quotation marks and shit like that. And like like the story is like way more simple and short. But anyway, let's talk about Blood Meridian. Blood Meridian was very interesting. Like, okay, I'm gonna say something crazy, but like please don't like see it as like a reflection of me. And I'm sure some other people would say like something similar, but like holy shit, Judge Holden, like the main like antagonist, has insane aura. And I don't mean that as like you would probably think aura is like a good thing, but no, he has like a villainous aura, but at the same time he does have like this presence. I'm not trying to say like that's like an edgy thing, who's that what's the name, like Nick Fuentes, when he said that like Hitler or something had like aura or something. I'm not trying to like be edgy or something like that, but I'm saying like if you read this book like and you read like the description of like the main villain, dude, he has aura. If you don't know Judge Holden, he's basically like almost 7 foot tall, like alopecia. I think it's alopecia when you're basically hairless, like no hair at all. He's albino, so he's completely white, no color on him at all. 7 foot, hairless, 7 foot tall. Did I say that? I don't know, but basically he's insane, and he's insanely like strong and muscular and shit like that. And like his strength feats in like the story are actually insane as well. I'm not trying to like praise this guy. Like he's a very bad person. He fucking does crazy shit to especially like young kids. I don't know how much I can say on YouTube, but like just read the book. I highly recommend it. But like I remember this one scene where he's getting like attacked by like a guy with like a knife. I think it's like a knife, like a gun or something like that. And he basically grabs the guy's hand, like arm or something, breaks it. Like they're pointing at him. He basically like shadow steps inside. I'm like hyping this shit up, but it's like I don't think it actually happened like this, but basically he like breaks the dude's arm, and then he's like, screaming, and then he picks him up by the head like a fucking Viltrumite almost, and then literally crushes his skull with just like with one hand, or like maybe like two hands, but either way, this dude's actually insane. And the craziest thing is, like he's not like any Yujiro Hanma, like he's not like some crazy dude, but like in this like in the story, he is considered just to be a human. Like that's he's supposed to be like a very like interesting human. I think like the symbolism of him of like being like the devil is like also interesting, but there's no fantasy aspects in this book. It's all about this kid basically. And actually, let's describe the story now. The kid, the main protagonist is the kid. There's no name for him ever. I don't think so. I can't remember. I read this. I'm like saying this as like I read this book almost like 2 months ago or something like that. It's a long time ago. So I'm like vaguely like remembering like all of the stuff that happened. But basically, the kid is like he leaves home at like the age of 14 or some shit like that, and he goes like a journey basically, and he like meets very interesting characters and stuff like that. He meets like a couple of like he meets like this one dude he fought at a bar, and they become like really close friends. I forgot his name. Like it's like Toad. I can't remember. But anyway, doesn't really matter. I can basically describe the characters for you. It's like a very like unstructured video basically. The main characters is the boy, his mate, the priest, Judge Holden, the main leader. Oh, I forgot what the gang, the Glanton gang. They are the Glanton gang, and there's like a leader. So Judge Holden's always like kind of like the second in command, but at the same time, it's like he doesn't really care about being second in the command, because I have this feeling that like he doesn't see like tiers of like or like structure in terms of like, let's say like an army, for example. You have like like the top of like the head of like or like let's say like in society, the president's the top dude. He wouldn't care about being vice president, because he knows that he controls basically everything no matter what, you know what I mean. And so technically it's like it's kind of like fake status or something like that. He's second in command, or like not even second in command. I don't think it's ever like stated, but like he's actually like the top dog basically. I mean he's the dude's 7 foot, muscular, hairless, albino. It's insane. Like you can't like it's like, where's Waldo? Like he's literally like out of everyone back in like this 1800s American setting, it's like dude, he stands out basically. But anyway, it's like, yeah, that was a very interesting book. It felt like a lot longer because I had to like reread that book a lot. Would I recommend it? I recommend this book. Because like just like the story is really good. And now I'm gonna get into some spoilers. So yeah, like if you don't want to stick around for the spoilers of just this book, I'll usually do like the book review, spoilers, next book review, spoilers for that book. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. The ending was insane. Basically, the boy becomes the man, and then the man is like, like a help, like he wants to help people get through the countryside. Basically, it's like very dangerous. There's like bad people. I'm not gonna say the races, but Indians and Mexicans and other shit like that. I think Mexicans aren't like that bad. It's like indigenous tribes that like actually hate people that invade their land. And fair enough, but and yeah, the man, like the man who was the kid, he eventually decides to do like you pay me, I'll help you get through the I don't know if he does it for money, but anyway, he helps people get through the deserts basically, right? And eventually goes to a town, and he sees none other than Judge Holden, who beforehand in like this sort of like this castle structure type thing that like it's a very long story. Basically, the Glanton gang basically all died. And this is like like 20 years or something later or some shit like that. I can't remember how many years later, but anyway, the only people that exist are Judge from the Glanton gang is the man, the kid, and Judge Holden. And Judge Holden doesn't like have like a description of he aged or anything. Like he should be like a lot older now, because the kid's a man now. But Judge Holden doesn't really seem to like age that much, or if he does, it's like very like unspoken, like very vague or something like that. But anyway, he ends up because like it was basically Judge Holden's plan to basically kill everyone in the Glanton gang, because like the one rule was like you cannot leave the Glanton gang. If you leave the Glanton gang, you're done. I don't know, like they basically kind of like dissolved the Glanton gang, and Judge Holden wasn't happy with that, and so he ended up killing everyone instead of just being like using his words like a grown man. He just decided to be like he paid off like this I think it was like the Mexicans or and some other like military or something like that, and they ended up killing everyone basically. Um, but yeah, eventually, yeah, like the symbolism. Like I remember, like I watched Wendigoon's like not the whole Wendigoon movie, but okay, like the 5 hours. I'm watching all that, but I'm watching like the second half of that thing because I kind of like had to like understand the ending after I read the book. And basically then eventually the man tries to escape, and then Judge Holden supposedly like destroy, like this guy can kill horses and men with his bare hands. Like he's not playing around. And so when you would think that like, oh, the man's gonna be all right, Judge Holden basically spawns in like he had like a fucking enderpearl stasis chamber and absolutely destroyed like like we don't like get a description of what happens, but we get a description of some dude saying like, oh, what's in that stall, and they go to that stall and they just see the corpse, like the mangled corpse of this dude just in there. I don't think that, again, I don't think they really say that, but I think it's like kind of like in your mind it's like a description of like, yeah, dude, this guy got absolutely fucked up. And then Judge Holden basically gets away, and he starts singing about how he will never die, and that he'll live forever. And again, like the symbolism of him being like the devil. Like I'm not like religious or anything, but I do understand like the some biblical aspects of this book. Um, but like yeah, that was insane. It was such a like a long trip, and I do why I love reading books just as much as I love playing like video games and shit like that. It's like and at the same time, it's like I used to be like very like anti. I haven't played video games in like 2 years until like recently I started streaming. I've been very against video games because like, oh, video games are just degenerate and shit like that. And obviously there are like a lot more degenerate games compared to like if you're playing D&D with your homeboys and you're mainly reading stuff like that, right? It's like you're mainly reading, you're mainly like relaxing and stuff like that. I don't think like truly, I don't think video games are relaxing. Like they can feel relaxing, but in your brain they're stimulating, they're dopaminergic, they're they're taking more control over you. And I initially quit video games because like I did feel like addicted to it. I was playing video games more than I was studying and shit like that. And that's like we all fall down to our vices at some point in our lives. The main thing is if you know you go like further beyond and actually quit it and actually put an effort to get out of that state. But anyway, I'm getting my head myself. um when I finished like reading like the second book, I will say, so actually I didn't read these books at all. I technically read um Tender as a Flesh, no, Blood Meridian first, Tender as a Flesh, and then The Road. So I'm not like doing this in order. I just kind of like want to do it in like Cormac McCarthy's books first and then Tender as a Flesh last. But anyway, yeah, so I remember like, I was reading The Road, and this is when I'll get into like The Road now, because like okay, so let push Blood Meridian aside. Um, and again, okay, for hold on, disclaimer: I am not, you know, portraying Judge Holden as like this epic character or something like that. At the end of the day, he's a villain, and he's a villain because he does heinous things to people, not just people, but also kids. As a matter of fact, he does heinous things to kids because he believes that destroying them at such a young age basically brings out a certain like he basically thinks that like if this will like make or break them, like their character later on in life. So he thinks that like hurting, like very like intently like hurting kids is a good thing for them. Or like I don't really think, I don't know. I feel kind of like bad for him because I feel like maybe like something bad happened to him when he was younger or something like that. Almost, I don't feel bad for him, but you know what I mean. Like I feel like his level of thinking. Like, he's a very smart dude. He's probably way smarter than I could be, but he's very mentally scarred, it feels like, and his level of thinking about like, oh, we have to do bad things in life because it's like just the way it is. And like I remember him talking about like war and like how war is like the only good thing that you can do because like it's like the most like raw primal thing that comes to playing games. Like you can play games, but you can also kill people. And when the risk and reward is life and death, that's like the most like raw aspect of playing games ever. He sees war and killing people as games, and he sees torturing and hurting people as like a good thing for them. Um, but at the same time, I can't just feel like it's a cope. I feel like he's just kind of saying these things. Not like, maybe he half believes them, but also I feel like he just wants to do things to kids because he likes doing it. I don't think there's like some moral aspect he has about him. I think he just wants to do whatever he wants to do, and then he'll try and like portray himself as like this, almost like uptight, like godly type of human. But like, oh no, every single aspect, no matter heinous or not, has like a reason to it. I don't really think so. I think he would be doing this even if he couldn't, morally justify either. But anyway, the road. So the road was the reason why I started getting back into video games, was because the road was such a slog. Like it's about Cormac McCarthy again, and everyone was like hyping this book up. Oh, it's so good and shit like that. And I read the book, and it was kind of just like it was not bad. Would I recommend it? Kind of not. I could basically explain the story, and you would be like, all right with that. You could even not even watch me, but you could watch someone else, and you would be pretty all right, in terms of like I mean, you're never about to read the book. Actually, as a matter, if you want to read the book, just like listen to an audiobook or something. Go for a walk, do something like more like this book wasn't very like philosophically challenging or like something crazy. I feel like Blood Meridian, where it's like Judge Holden like justifying his cruel actions, is like way more thought invoking than like The Road. I would say The Road's like a very short read, so like if you are a quick reader like I am, I just feel like even like how like quick it was to read, I feel like it was kind of just a waste of time. But anyway, no, the book is beautifully written. The story is very interesting, but I always say before I get into like the story, this got me back into games because I was basically thinking about how my life and our lives and like thinking about like nihilism and like how I used to think about like negative thoughts and stuff like that. I won't talk about it, but if you want to go in like my r/nihilism video, go into that. I basically talk a little bit more about it. But basically, when I was thinking about bad thoughts, I was explaining in that video that our lives are like a book, like a story, and should you feel bad for playing games, like obviously like if you're wasting time and you're not doing productive things, yeah, you should feel bad. But it's like if you're making memories with your friends, you're making memories like you're actually being productive in like sort of sense and like that. It's like at the same time you are making a memory that is like a story. And no, it's not going to be like a book. It's not going to be equal to playing video games. But at the same time, it's like you shouldn't feel so bad for playing any type of video game, especially if you're like you're it's like productive in like a sort of way where it's like you will remember the story for years. Like obviously, like if you scroll reels and you're being a bot, basically, like you're being like, a complete degenerate. That happiness isn't gonna last. You're not gonna like really enjoy it. But like what I mean, like I feel good streaming and shit like that and playing video games on stream, because if I was just playing this shit just in my room by myself, no one else, that would feel like very degenerate to me. Not to like shit on you if you are, but I feel like life has so many things that you could be good at. Like try and get a good hobby, like not like a hobby where it's like you just do shit. A hobby is like supposed to be something where it's like you spend your time grinding out a skill and you actually get better while doing this hobby. Like any fitness, arts, like something like that. Like I do like woodwork. I can draw. I work out and shit like that. I'm cooking. I'm trying to become a chef, like an actual chef. I'm going to go to uni and shit like that to get like an actual thing. But anyway, my point is that I read this book and I basically started playing video games because I was like, this book is such bullshit. It feels like a waste of time. It feels like such a waste of time that I could justify myself playing video games again, because I'm like, is this really any better than wasting time playing video games? Not really, because I could have enjoyed playing video games and got a good moral lesson out of it. Like, what I mean? But like, and like maybe some humor. But this book, I basically read it and I was like a bot the whole time. Like, it wasn't like it was a good book, but at the same time, it just feels like Anyway, let's talk about the book. I'm yapping too much. I'm sorry. The book is basically it's based in America. Again, it's Cormac McCarthy, so he only knows like America or something like that. And It's like it's a dystopian. It's a dystopian. America's gone to shit. And basically they're on a road. Oh no way! I said the title of the book. They're on a road. They're trying to seek salvation. They're just traveling on this road with like a trolley, and this man and a boy. Again, their names are like never said. Um, and it is really bad. Like, I think there's no animals or something. There's no food. There's no everything's burnt. I'm pretty sure like everything like's burnt down. The economy's collapsed. Everything's done for. There's nothing like nothing's out there. And they're traveling on this road trying to seek out like they're basically their main source of food is like whatever they have on the trolley and seeking and basically scavenging for like tins and stuff like that in like abandoned houses and stuff like that. And okay, I'll get into like some spoilers now. I remember that the reason I hate this book is because the Kindle app shows you how far into the book you really are, and I got a third of the way into the book, and I realized nothing has actually happened. It was like they were pulling an Aragon. I don't know if you read Aragon. I read like the half that book. It was ass because I'm sure the book was like gonna get good, but like I don't really give things chances. I'm like hurry up, get to like the good part. And I gave this book a chance because I heard everyone was hyping it up. But honestly, if I didn't hear all the hype about this, I would have quit it because I read so much of the book and not really much was happening. But then this stuff started happening. They go into a house and then they start seeing like a dude, like some like people in like an attic. And this dude's legs was like chopped off. I'm sorry for being so graphic, but this dude's legs was like chopped off, and like supposedly like all like the people like they meet in this story are eating people. They're cannibals because there's nothing else to eat. And the boy and the man are basically like it's always like this moral justification of like the man has to put themselves in danger. The man has to protect the kid always. It's child and son basically. It's a son and father basically. That's a duo. That's our main characters. And the kid has always been with his dad, but also like whenever his dad does something that's like morally like questionable, the kid has to be like, but we're the good guys, right? And that dad's like yeah, we're the good guys, like this is like our story and we're the good guys. But then like sometimes the dad will like react a bit like too harshly, like I mean like later on the story they like some dude like robs them, but then like the man basically doesn't just rob them to get their stuff back, but like takes all the guy's clothes and shit like that. And the kid's like, like the kid's like always like a very like he's probably like 7 years, like 7 or something like that. The kid's like he obviously don't he doesn't like he talks like a kid, but he's basically just like, wasn't that a bit too much? And the guy's like, oh yeah, probably I'll give him his clothes back. What I mean? Like the kid's kind of like that, like that the thing in his life that basically keeps him like a good person, like keeps him accountable and stuff like that. And then I remember also like yeah, like basically people eating people. Like there's like again, this is gonna be very graphic again, but there's like this one point where like they getting full or something, and they go to like the people's hideout, and then the people aren't there, but there's a fire going on, and there's literally like okay, graphic warning. There's like a baby that's like skewered, and it's like we're like on a fire basically, and the people supposedly left because apparently one of the women there, I think it was only one woman, a couple guys, but basically the woman there was pregnant, and they end up eating the baby. And I was like, holy hell, that's really like that's terrible. That's like really graphic and shit like that. I didn't think get that far. Um, and yeah, it's like there's unlike the Blood Meridian where like all characters are pretty bad, some worse than others. This book is pretty clear cut. The man and the kid are pretty decent. Like the dad can be pretty harsh sometimes, but like he has to protect his son. Um, and basically everyone else that they meet is like this horrible person who's eating people, and they have nothing, and they rob people, and they I remember this one time on the road there was like carriages of like humans, like alive humans, basically like either slaves or just like livestock, and they're done for, and they basically the man and the son can do nothing besides basically just watch and pray for them. But eventually, end the book again. More spoilers. They get to the beach, which is what they're trying to do, they end up again like a lot of this time it's mainly just about like scavenging and stuff like that. But even then, it's like it doesn't even hit my dopamine. Like I've read books about like we're going to go and like scavenge for stuff and like stuff like that. But again, he describes things way too much. Like he went on like a ruined book and he found like a sextant and something like that. And it's like, bro, he could have like described that in like a couple of like sentences, but instead he decided to spend like paragraphs like describing like like the it doesn't matter. My point is like he yaps a bit too much, even though this is a short book. But anyway, it feels longer because like he is just yapping about like random stuff like that. But anyway, what happens? They get to the beach, and throughout the story, the man's like coughing, and he wakes up throughout the night. And it basically, again, is why like, I didn't really like the book too much because it's very predictable. The man's dying, and at the end of the book, he does die. Um, and the kid he's left alone, and then the man finds the kid, like another dude finds a kid who has like a backpack and like a gun or something like that. And I thought, oh, it's over, bro. He's just gonna get robbed, eaten alive, or some shit like that. But this dude's actually a pretty decent dude. He ends up burying or like tucking away the father for the kid, and the man's like, oh yeah, we have shelter and my wife and my kids. You should come with us. And that's how the story ends. Is that the kid? We don't know what happens to the kid, but we hope that this man actually is a good person, and didn't just shoot the kid or some shit like that. But I pray that like in my head I'm gonna think happy thoughts, and I'm gonna believe that the kid, everything turned out fine for the kid. Basically, that's what I'm gonna do. And now we have Tender is the Flesh by whoever the fuck name was that again. Cormac McCarthy is like a way more prominent writer. There's other person. Who is it again? Christina Doucher. And I was so shocked because she has a very vulgar mind. And again, I was shocked because I didn't know, I didn't realize it was a woman writing this book until I kind of sensed it, because she kind of like writes the dudes like all like the men as kind of like this like bad type of individual. Especially the ending shocked me. I think she had like maybe like she just writes men in like this bad way, but like no matter what gender you are, you will have like your biases towards like your gender and shit like that. But anyway, this book is very okay. Again, shock warning, vulgar warning, gore. It's okay. The plot. Okay, so if you don't think you can handle it, I'll tell you the plot quickly. The plot is that all animals have died to a virus, and they're eating humans commercially. Like they're not just like it's not like a all-out war. They're literally like where animals would be normally in like a farm, factory, skin factory. Humans are there instead. And so if you want to stick around for that, go ahead. If you click off the video, I won't mind. But basically, yeah. So basically, we're in the perspective. The main character is like this Mexican man. Yeah, I think he's Mexican. His name's like Mexican or something like that. It doesn't really matter to the plot. My point is that he has a wife who they had like a miscarriage. Which, considering what happens to the livestock, the humans in this book, is kind of like a meh situation, because awful things happen to people. So again, spoiler, shock warning. But anyway, they have a miscarriage. The wife becomes upset, and whether it's fortunate or unfortunately, this man has inherited by his dad or something, or his grandfather or something like that, an animal farm basically, but there's no animals left, and it commercially turned into a livestock farm, a head farm, which are humans now. And he is very emotionally distant throughout the book. He kind of just he's kind of just like, yeah, he talks while everyone in the story, even good people, like you supposedly good people like his sister or something, that is kind of like annoying to hang out with, but like she is just the way she is, and she's very like ideologically captured by like the government and shit like that. But anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Even like supposedly normal good people that live in society are just talking about these eating people like as if the people are just animals. But yeah, it's very strange. And then but he will like we're the vessel of the story is the main character, and he talks like like, he says like they're people, like he says shit like that, like, he refers to them as like humans, people, and people don't usually do that. They would just refer to them as like head, which, is normally what you call cows in real life, and or like livestock or something like that. But anyway, I'm trying to remember the plot. He meets like a bunch of like weird characters throughout the story. There's like, the skin factory, CEO, and he's like a weird like Asian dude who like, I'm not saying he's weird because he's Asian, but like he like, he owns human skin. He's kind of fucking weird, let's be honest. Um and then throughout this, and then okay, and then, it's like weird shit like that. Like later on in the story, I don't know how much I can say on YouTube, but basically, yeah, they're eating humans, and like veal, like actual like beef, it tastes better because it's younger. Well, they end up eating younger and younger humans in like the story, basically, and yeah, that's like really bad. And basically, and then let me get back to the main plot. Basically, yeah, his life sucks. He doesn't have his wife with him. His wife's like living up with like, her mother again. And she's like, perpetual like, medical like, depressed state. And like a friend ends up giving this dude a human. I keep on saying this dude. I can't remember his name. I could probably find it. Uh, what's the guy's name? This is so unprofessional of me. Holy. Tender as a flesh. What's his name? What's his name? Cut this out of the video. What the fuck? Miguel. Oh, I'm just being racist now. Basically, he ends up getting a human, and this human is treated like an animal. Like this person is livestock, and it's given to him because you can feed this human, and then it's yours. Like it's like imagine instead of a human, it'd be a cow. Like, I give you a cow, you get to raise up this cow, and then eventually you give it back to the people. They slaughter it, and then you get all its meat. That's like a blessing, right? Like if it was an actual animal, but it's a human. And it's weird because they're not like, it's not like a human that it's like a subspecies. These are people, and their vocal cords are destroyed at birth, and so but their brains are just still intact. They're humans to like through and through. They just can't talk basically, and they're fed like grain or something like that, or like a human mix. And also a really interesting insight was that this was written maybe like in 2017 or something like that. And I feel like back in the day, people, like a lot of people were like very worried about overpopulation. And like, isn't that crazy? For like, hey, people used to be worried about overpopulation. Now we're worried about people not having enough children. So I feel like the problem kind of fixed itself almost. Whether that was through the government, or the like inflation, the government, psyoping or something like that. Either way, we end up fixing the overpopulation crisis. Like it's being kind of stagnant between 8 and 9 million people. But anyway, back in the day, everyone was worried about overpopulation. So this is like a story about what would happen if overpopulation was a thing. Oh, but isn't it about a virus? Well, here's the interesting part. It's like a conspiracy, and the main dude believes it as well. Like the main character believes it, that the government basically invented a fake virus in order to, like, every world leader basically invented a rule to kill all animals. Like you have to kill animals because basically if an animal is infected, and all animals are infected, and if you get touched by an animal or something like that, you get bitten, saliva, like a virus basically would enter you, you would die instantly. But this is all fake, apparently. And whether or not, like, we don't really truly find out, but it's basically, like, kind of, like, discussed that, like, oh, yeah, this virus is probably fake. Like, there's, like, this one point where, like, these kids are, like, destroying, like, a bunch of puppies in, like, an old zoo enclosure, basically. And one of the boys gets bitten. And then the boy's like, oh, you idiot, you're gonna die now. And he's like, are you serious? You actually believe that nonsense? It's just a government psyop anyway. And then they go back to, killing them and throwing around the puppies and shit like that. And I was like, wow, okay, so they're just killing dogs because they want to, apparently. Um, and yeah, that's really bad. But anyway, let's get back to the main point. The man falls in love with the human that is given to him as livestock. And eventually, and before I get to that, there's like, again, like, I could describe all the heinous things in this book. It's very like hard to read. There's like this one point where it's like, there's a solid rule where it's like, these animals, these human animals are supposed to be treated like animals. You can't do anything you wouldn't do to an animal to it, basically. But then they ended up like, there's like millionaire circles that they ended up killing actual humans because why not? Like, oh, we're gonna give you like a bunch of money if you survive, and then they end up just killing the people. Like, it's like, billionaire bullshit anyway. But anyway, he ends up doing the human that's supposed to be an animal for him, and she ends up, like, obviously she can't consent, she can't talk, but like, she kind of like has like this notion that she does love the person, like, the main character. And I feel like it's really bad for me to say that because, again, she can't really consent. But anyway, uh, and she like seeing him whenever he comes back home. She ends up falling pregnant. But again, this is illegal because you can't do anything you wouldn't do to an animal to a human. Like, that's a livestock human, basically. It's very illegal. But he ends up, getting away with it. There's like inspections and shit like that. He ends up hiding, her in like his attic or something like that. And he ends up getting away with it. And eventually, and then this is where the story turns out to be pretty trash, in my opinion. The ending, to me, the ending was bad. But then when I started searching up the ending, I was kind of like okay with it. But anyway, here's the ending. So, big spoiler. I really recommend you read this book. It's not for the faint of heart, but again, it's really interesting. He ends up, she ends up getting pregnant, and she ends up going to give birth. He calls his wife, and she's like, "Why are you calling me?" And she ends up going to the house. Realize, she's like, "What'd you do? Like, why is this animal, like, this animal human, pregnant?" And he's like, "There's not too much time to talk about. You've given birth. Please help me out." And then she ends up giving birth. Everything goes well. And then the man ends up clubbing her like he does normally at his job to any other animal to knock her out. And then the wife's like, "Why did you do that? She could have given us more babies." And he said, "There's not enough time. They're on to me," or something like that. And then he takes her to the barn, and eventually it's implied that she's properly handled with, and that's like the end of the story. And then when I realized a woman wrote it, again, I'm not trying to like say like, oh, women, but it's like, it does feel like she kind of took like a really strange direction with the ending, because it's like, I feel like she kind of like wrote the man being like a very bad person, and I was very like upset when I read the book. I was at a kid's playground. It was like nighttime, so no one was there. It was like past 12 o'clock, and I was sitting like up in like this thing, reading the book on like my phone, and I literally like, all like, I was like I was like shocked. I was like laying there, and I was like, holy Christ, like that ending was crazy. Not to mention, I was listening to like the Darkwood soundtrack while reading this book. But anyway, I don't know if you guys are still here with me, but like, if you are, like comment like fucking comment watermelon. Anyway, um, and then I delved into like Reddit threads to see like what the ending was truly about, and supposedly it was implied throughout the story that he never did, like, even though he does see these people, like, these animal people. I say animal people, they're literally just humans, livestock, as humans. And he does tend to like, he's even vegetarian because he doesn't want to, not vegetarian, he's actually vegan. He doesn't want to eat people. And you falsely assume that he's a good person because, like, he's a vegan. Not, but like, he's directly accountable for killing all these humans legally. But yeah, no, you get lured into a false sense of assuredness that like he's a good person. But supposedly, like, he impregnated this human, and again, she can't give consent. Apparently it was his plan all along to get this human pregnant, to bring back his wife, to live a normal life, and he used her basically. And again, like you feel so shocked because you don't think that he's using her. You think that like he's fallen in love to as much as you can with a thing that can't talk, a human that can't talk. Sorry. Um, and yeah, it just feels like a shock. You're like, why would he do that? And then you realize, no, he's actually a pretty bad person. You don't think he's a really bad person because again, you're lured into a false sense of security. And if you're gonna like show me being like, oh no, you should have like seen that coming, or like, oh you're a bad person for assuming he's a person who kills people is a good person, like who like no, he doesn't kill people directly. He kind of like runs the factory. But anyway, if you're gonna show me and say that, okay, I'm a bad person, but like if you should read the book yourself. And I don't know why I'm saying this now, because like obviously you know the ending, and now you're gonna like read the book and be like, oh no, of course it's bad. But like again, like if you truly like read this book without my input, and like you've read it but yourself, you truly like you will feel the feeling of being led to like a false sense of security about this person. The main character being a good human, um, just to be like, wow, like he's a pretty shit person the whole time. He's very like nihilistic. He smokes a lot. He kind of just wants to like die like really soon and shit like that until like this new person who he figures out that he basically use to like get his wife back. Again, like this is never hinted at, by the way. This is never hinted at throughout the story. He just does this like literally like this happens all in like the last couple of pages, and then the book's just done, and it's like holy hell. But anyway, I've yapped enough. I'm reading Lord of the Flies. I have read other books as well. I probably make like a different video about it because I feel like this video's gone on for long enough. So I hope you really enjoyed this video. If you want more like book reviews or shit like that, leave a comment and leave a like. Leave a comment like yapping about. Actually, leave a comment giving me suggestions for books. I'm so like lost for like what to read. I remember like I made a couple of videos talking about like how to get back into reading, how to these videos are deleted by the way, but it doesn't matter. How to get good book suggestions, but even I can't get like unlimited book suggestions and shit like that because I don't give book chances. I literally read a book, and if I don't like it, I just toss it aside and read something else. I typically like shorter books because I don't like investing too much of my time, especially if the book starts to become shit. Then I feel like I kind of like wasted a bunch of time. So yeah, give me some suggestions. Leave a comment, anything really. Say something bad about me, and I'll reply to it. And leave a like if you want to see if you like the video. Subscribe if you want to see more like this. Again, I'm gonna edit my stream, give you some videos, make more book reviews. But anyway, hope you enjoyed. See ya.